what's something that you've seen kind of your sales training where, the vehicle is changing, right? So, radio was before, TV, cell phone, now it's who knows what's next, right? But like, what's something that you've seen in kind of the sales sphere that the media has changed, but not really the actual foundation of that thing that people need to learn to
Sure.
ultimately sell from?
Well, I think the most obvious one to me is the ability to connect personally with someone, that personal communication. And we see this so much in today, as we have become more digital, right? And we stepped on the gas and really accelerated that, in the last 3 months in terms of digital. But it still comes down to that personal connection and that ability to get to know someone and talk to someone and build trust. And this is what, so not just salespeople, but so many companies, I think, where they really drop the ball, is they create a website and they say, okay, well, I'm going to get this website, if I get it just right, it's going to sell for me. And depending, unless you're just selling retail, right? If you're selling something retail, then maybe that's a little different. But for a lot of organizations, your website ought to be designed just to get to the point where now you can engage. That's the entire point of marketing, right? Is now, how do I get that engagement with somebody who's a good, potential fit for me? And so that's the thing that I think will never go out of style, is what do we do when we actually get that person now who wants to talk to us? And how do we have those conversations? And how do we pour into them to start to build some credibility? I think too many people now, think because everything's digital, well, there's just this shortcut sort of easy button. And so if I just build the right click funnel, then we don't have to worry about how to actually talk to somebody. And I don't see that for most of us as being a good long-term strategy. I think it's still going to come down to, how do you have that good conversation once you pull them into that funnel?
Well, longevity is so incredibly important. I mean, think about how many people that you had never seen an email about 3 months ago, right? Somehow you were subscribed to their list. That's great. That's fine, whatever. And then they sent you an email or two. And then I guess it didn't work because they hadn't been nurturing them for a long time.
Sure.
And then here we are 91 days later, whatever it is, and they went bye-bye. Huh. Imagine that. I wonder why that happened, right? I know the answer. I know you know the answer. Like, the answer is they got lazy and it didn't work long enough. And they thought that, just because I emailed this thing or just posted this thing, it was going to work. And last time I checked, that strategy doesn't work. And I think that's what you're getting into. It's like, hey, some of these things that you learn from other people can work. However, the key to all this is nurture, 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 nurture. And then when you nurture enough and you're asking the right questions, great things happen out of that. And if you compare that with what you sell, amazing things can happen out of that. So when someone is thinking about what questions do I ask, and they suck at asking questions, what's a good first question, an icebreaker, or how to really figure out something about someone that they didn't know to then get them to hopefully later down the line, maybe acquire or make a transaction?
Well, I think the first thing is, are we talking about a net brand new conversation, right? So, and also I would say where you are, may have some bearing on that as well, right? So if we're in a more informal setting, I think, your first question ought to be just focused on them. Hey, what are you up to? What is it that you're interested in right now? What are you learning? I know, Zack, you love to ask people what they're watching on Netflix. And it's that idea about really creating some sort of a relationship first. And what, my go-to, particularly if we are in a more of a formal setting, I just like to ask people, so tell me what you do. What is it you do? You tell me, and a follow-up to that might be, tell me why you do what you do, because I really want to focus on finding out more about them. The way I look at, particularly, let's just say in the word of prospecting, right? I'm looking for people who might be a fit. but I'm also looking for people who aren't a fit. And what I mean by that is, as I'm having a conversation with someone now, I could put them into different buckets. I might say, hey, Zack seems like a really cool guy. He's a guy I'd like to go have wings and a beer with sometime. But after talking to him for 4 or 5 minutes, he's probably not a fit for my business model. Right. So I'm sort of sorting in that way. Whereas I talk to somebody else and I say, you know what, some of the things that I'm hearing from them, some of the things they do might be in alignment for some of what we do. And so I think you start off just very, very general. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you're doing. What are you up to? The question that I've been using now, if we can, and I don't know how much we want to talk about COVID or focus on that, but sort of, as I'm doing outreach, one of the questions that I've gone to now is to ask people to sort of, give me an idea of how they've been impacted. And so it might sound something like, hey, Zack, as I'm talking to people, I'm finding really one of two buckets that people are falling in. Some people are looking at right now as a great opportunity for growth and, to really charge ahead and maybe even try things they've never tried before. And then I'm hearing from other people who are just sort of trying to hang on and get through this period and really sort of, battening down the hatches. Which one of those buckets would you say you fall in?
So